The camera pans across a luxurious party hall filled with a glittering elite, millionaires, celebrities, and socialites, all dressed in shimmering gowns and tuxedos. The chatter is lively, the laughter sharp, but something feels off. At the center, a 50-year-old wealthy man leans back, smirking, as the crowd subtly laughs at him in admiration and mockery. Among the crowd, the white-faced twin, smug and careless, giggles, clearly enjoying the spectacle. But then, all eyes turn to black-faced twin, her kind eyes calm yet piercing. She walks forward with grace, and her voice cuts through the noise. Mocking someone for who they are, does that make you powerful? Or just small? The laughter dies down. The room falls silent. She doesn't shout. She doesn't accuse. But every word she utters makes the room feel the weight of empathy, respect, and equality. Even the man at the center, who has seen endless flattery, feels a twinge of shame and understanding. The twin's presence isn't just noticed. It demands introspection. Hook takeaway. In just 1 minute, viewers see the contrast between cruelty and kindness, arrogance and empathy, white-face haughtiness versus black-face humanity. It's emotional, relatable, and makes the audience think, who am I in this room? The grand hall glittered under the shimmering chandeliers, a sea of golden gowns and tailored tuxedos moving gracefully, yet the air was thick with subtle arrogance. Laughter rang like crystal glasses clinking, but underneath it, a tension simmered. The kind that comes when people measure each other, silently ranking appearances, wealth, and status. At the center of this lavish assembly, the 50-year-old wealthy man leaned back with an air of confidence bordering on arrogance. Guests glanced at him with curiosity and admiration. Some with concealed amusement, others with open envy. Among them, the white-faced twin, sharp-eyed and smirking, joined in the laughter that subtly mocked his mannerisms. Her haughty giggles carried effortlessly across the room, drawing attention and signaling her enjoyment of the spectacle. But then, all focus shifted. The black-faced twin entered, calm, poised, radiating a warmth that demanded respect without demanding submission. Her eyes, deep and kind, swept over the crowd, absorbing the subtle hierarchies, the whispered judgments, and the quiet performances of power. Yet there was no trace of fear or intimidation in her presence, only a natural authority born of empathy and self-respect. She moved forward with deliberate grace, her steps unhurried, yet commanding the room's attention. Her gaze met the wealthy man's for a moment, acknowledging him not with awe or mockery, but with an unspoken understanding of human vulnerability. And then she spoke, her voice clear, measured, carrying the weight of truth. Mocking someone for who they are, does that make you powerful? Or does it simply show how small you feel inside? The effect was immediate. Laughter faltered. Conversations paused. The white-faced twin smirk wavered. The room felt the shift, a quiet ripple of reflection. This wasn't a dramatic confrontation, yet every word resonated like a bell toll in the minds of the guests. Instead of attacking, she demonstrated, through presence, poise, and subtle actions, the principles of dignity, empathy, and equality. She invited those nearby into conversations that mattered, asking questions that revealed real thoughts, listening with intent, and responding with genuine warmth. The guests who once laughed at trivialities now felt the weight of introspection. They realized that human worth cannot be measured by status, age, or appearance. The black-faced twin didn't merely speak about kindness, she embodied it. A guest who had been the subject of whispered jokes earlier found herself laughing softly at her own vanity rather than at anyone else's expense. Another, a young socialite trying to navigate the complex web of elite interactions, found courage to voice her thoughts, encouraged by the twin's calm attention. Meanwhile, the white-faced twin grew restless. Her laughter, once a weapon, now seemed hollow. She attempted subtle jabs, witty remarks aimed to regain the attention she once commanded, but her words lacked impact. The contrast between her brashness and her sister's composed authority was stark. It became clear that power rooted in ridicule and superiority is fleeting, while the strength derived from empathy and human connection endures. By the end of the evening, the guests had changed without confrontation. They had experienced a quiet revolution, not in wealth or status, but in perspective. The black-faced twin had shown them that true influence is earned through respect and understanding, not mockery or manipulation. The wealthy man, who had been used to flattery and laughter at his expense, now felt a subtle, almost surprising shift within himself, an awareness of humility and humanity he hadn't anticipated. In that glittering hall, amid opulence and superficial charm, a simple truth had unfolded. Kindness carries power greater than arrogance. Empathy leaves a mark that laughter never can. The luxury hall, once filled with chatter and laughter, now carried a different energy, a subtle reverence, almost tangible, lingering in the air. The black-faced twins' calm authority had shifted the dynamics of the gathering. Conversations were no longer shallow displays of status or sharp-edged humor aimed at belittling others. Guests moved with newfound awareness, their laughter tempered, their glances softer, their words measured. The white-faced twin, however, was struggling. Her previous confidence, her ability to command attention through sharp humor and haughty gestures, was no longer effective. Each attempt to regain control of the room fell flat. A joke aimed at a young man's slightly awkward posture went unheard. A sarcastic remark about the wealthy man's old-fashioned taste drew silence. She realized, perhaps for the first time, that power rooted in mockery and superiority was fragile, easily overturned by quiet dignity and genuine presence. Meanwhile, the black-faced twin continued her walk through the crowd, not with a sense of conquest, but with a subtle, transformative purpose. She spoke softly, yet every word carried weight, encouraging shy guests to share their thoughts, acknowledging overlooked efforts, and celebrating small virtues with genuine appreciation. A conversation about fashion turned into a discussion on personal struggles and triumphs. A toast intended for superficial praise became a heartfelt acknowledgement of human perseverance. Even the 50-year-old wealthy man, who had once been the target of whispered laughter, now approached her with a mixture of humility and curiosity. He had been so accustomed to flattery and insincere admiration that he had forgotten what authentic respect felt like. Her words didn't shame him. They invited reflection. Her gaze was kind, yet unwavering, and it demanded an honest look at himself, at his arrogance, his entitlement, and his assumptions. The room began to transform in subtle, yet profound ways. Guests who had previously measured each other by appearances or social rank now engaged in genuine conversations. Laughter returned, but it was lighter, freer, born of shared understanding rather than ridicule. The energy of the gathering shifted from superficial opulence to heartfelt connection. The white-faced twin, frustrated and confused, attempted one last dramatic display. She pointed at the wealthy man and whispered to her friends, "See, he's ridiculous. How can anyone take him seriously?" But the black-faced twin had already anticipated this. With a gentle, almost imperceptible smile, she turned the moment into a teaching opportunity. She walked up and, without raising her voice, said, "Judging others for what makes them different doesn't make you stronger. It only shows how small your perspective is." The words landed like stones in water, creating ripples across the room. People felt them, not as rebukes, but as truths they couldn't ignore. The white-faced twin's arrogance began to crumble, not because she was shamed publicly, but because she witnessed the authentic impact of her sister's kindness. She began to understand, at least subconsciously, that genuine influence cannot be forced. It must be earned through integrity and empathy. As the evening drew to a close, the black-faced twins' presence remained the center of quiet admiration. Guests left the party not just impressed by the luxury or spectacle, but inspired by the lesson embedded in her actions. She had demonstrated a simple yet profound truth. In a world obsessed with status, wealth, and appearances, true power lies in how we treat others, in our respect, compassion, and empathy. The wealthy man approached her one last time, not with joke or a boast, but with a respectful nod. I've never thought about it that way," he admitted softly. The words were small, but they carried weight, an acknowledgement that human dignity and understanding surpass superficial judgments. Even the white-faced twin lingered near the exit, observing her sister silently. For the first time, she felt a twinge of envy, not for wealth or attention, but for the quiet strength and moral authority that commanded respect effortlessly. She realized that mocking others could never replicate the influence born of empathy, kindness, and integrity. By the end of the night, the luxurious hall, which had once been a stage for vanity and subtle cruelty, had become a space of reflection, respect, and human connection. Every guest carried with them a lesson about humility, empathy, and the true meaning of admiration. The black-faced twin had done more than transform perceptions. She had planted seeds of introspection and genuine growth, leaving an impact that would last far beyond the glittering lights and golden chandeliers. In this chapter, viewers are drawn into the emotional and psychological journey of the twins, witnessing the contrast between arrogance and kindness, mockery and empathy, superficial influence and authentic respect. It's a story that resonates deeply, compelling reflection on personal behavior and societal attitudes. Life often teaches us lessons in the most unexpected ways. We live in a world obsessed with status, appearances, and the fleeting power of mockery. People measure themselves by wealth, beauty, and influence, forgetting that true strength is not about who can laugh the loudest or dominate the room, but about who can uplift, inspire, and transform others through empathy and kindness. The black-faced twin in our story showed that one act of courage, one voice of compassion, can change the energy of an entire room. She didn't shout, she didn't humiliate, she didn't demand attention. Instead, she used the subtle but unstoppable forces of dignity, respect, and human connection. Her actions reminded everyone, from the haughty guest to the arrogant wealthy man, that every human being deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of age, appearance, or social status. Empathy isn't weakness. Kindness isn't a compromise. They are unseen powers that inspire reflection, change behavior, and leave lasting impact. When we choose to lift others instead of mocking them, we don't just alter their lives, we transform our own. We create influence that is genuine, enduring, and far more profound than any superficial applause. The white-faced twins' journey teaches another critical lesson. Arrogance, judgment, and superiority may gain attention, but cannot create admiration or respect. Only through authentic presence, humility, and compassion can one truly influence hearts and minds. Audiences see this contrast clearly and feel it deeply. It's a mirror for our own lives. This story is a call to action. Look at your own words, your laughter, your judgments. Ask yourself, am I someone who builds others up or someone who tears them down? Every small act of kindness, every moment of empathy, creates ripples that can change the world around you. And sometimes one person's courage to act rightly can transform even the most superficial spaces into environments of reflection, respect, and human connection. Remember, admiration is not earned through mockery, arrogance, or wealth. It is earned through genuine respect, quiet confidence, and the courage to stand for what is right, even when no one is watching. Every smile you offer, every supportive word you speak, every act of kindness you show, these are the true luxuries of life. They create influence, trust, and a legacy far greater than material wealth. So, take a moment today. Reflect on your own actions. Consider how you treat others, in your family, in your workplace, in your social circles. Could you choose empathy over ridicule? Could you offer support instead of judgment? The answer is in your hands, and the impact is far-reaching. If this story touched you, moved you, or made you reflect, don't keep it to yourself. Comment your thoughts below. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe for more stories that not only entertain, but transform the way we see the world. Because true power doesn't shout, it inspires. True influence doesn't mock, it uplifts. And true courage doesn't dominate, it empowers.